I guess the first real question spurs from before the family moved to California.
Okay.
You were in New York and Chicago for a brief time. No, just
Brooklyn.
just Brooklyn. Can you talk about the brief time that you were in New York and maybe the transition to California?
All right. We lived in Brooklyn, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And my father had a hardware store, paint and hardware store.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother ran the store a lot, and my father did some painting, house painting.
Mm-hmm.
That was very common in those days for parents to do that.
Right.
And we lived above the store. And those apartments were big. They're big, it takes like the size of a store.
Mm-hmm.
Only it was an apartment above the store. You've seen it in the movies.
Yeah.
Where people live above the store. And that's where we lived. And we would come home from school, and we'd go to the store, and in the back of the store it was set up like a kitchen, so that my mother could stay in the store, and still we came and had our milk and cookies, when we came in the store. But Shirley was the eldest, your grandmother. Mm-hmm. She was the eldest, and then it was Norman and myself and Beverly. Mm-hmm. Beverly was, the little one. Let's see, what else do you want to know? My mother died
mm-hmm.
When she was 36. She
mm-hmm.
was killed in an accident.
1933.
1933. And because I know Shirley was present when it happened.
Yes.
Who was present when the actual...
Shirley and I
mm-hmm.
were present. Norman was in Hebrew school,
mm-hmm.
and Beverly was there, but she was 5. It was her birthday, and she was going to be 5 years old. So she was pretty young to mm-hmm. know really what was going on. But Shirley was there, and I was sitting, it's outside of an apartment. See, that's after we moved to an apartment rather than living over the store.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother and I were sitting outside, which was common where people sit outside of the apartment, but the man that ran into us had lost control of the car, and as he turned the corner, he lost control of the car and ran into the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we were staying outside. He didn't get into the apartment, but he
crashed into the building.
Into the building.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was hit, and I was hit, trying to grab her, and Shirley got Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
What else can I tell you?
Sorry, just...
Mother died, and they survived, the rest of them survived, but her father took it very hard,
mm-hmm.
and eventually gave up his business, and they decided to move to California, where other relatives were living.
Well, his brothers lived in California.
So my father's brothers lived in California.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he decided to join them and come out here.
I don't know if you've heard the name Selbert in the family. That's his brother. He had 5 brothers, and they came to America, and each one has a different name.
Mm-hmm.
My father kept the name close to what it was in Europe, which was
mm-hmm.
Debruskin. And how they got Selbert and Silbert, I have no idea.
How many brothers did your father have?
He had 5 brothers.
5 brothers, and everyone changed their name.
Yeah, everyone changed their name because it was a Russian name, Doborinsky or some crazy name, and it was hard to pronounce. So when they came to America, they mm-hmm. changed their names. Joe and Sam, which were his 2 older brothers. One has Selbert and one has Silbert. There's family here, living here,
mm-hmm.
that are related, that are children of these people. Uh, and then one uncle still lived in New York, and his is Dubrow.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one who lived in Milwaukee, I think, yeah. And he kept the original name, spelled it a little different. Dobrinsky or something. He changed it somewhat. And he had one sister, and she was Cherney, Gittel Cherney. And that's where the Cherney family comes in, with Hannah and Belle and all that group. So we came here, my father and 4 of the children came here on a bus.
You rode a bus from New York to...
From New York to California. We came on the bus. They didn't take the train, we took a bus. And Beverly and I got car sick, so we, my father sat in the back of the bus and pretended that we didn't belong to him, because he was a man with 4 kids, and we were getting sick. Beverly would take turns getting sick, but your grandmother was fine, and Norman was fine, and so we came.
So your father went to work out here?
Yeah, well, my father came here. He had been here before, and he wanted my mother to move out here, but she wouldn't move out here. Because her family lived in New York, so she never would come here. And of course, ultimately, she died, and then he decided to move here. So now he had 2 brothers here, which we saw. My father worked for his brother. His brother had liquor. How would he say? He supplied wine and beer, and they sold.
Like a wholesaler.
Yeah, he was a wholesaler. My father worked for him for a while, and Joe, his other brother, had a shoe repair shop not far from where we lived. So we kept up with the families somewhat, But let's see, we moved to Boyle Heights, and Boyle Heights wasn't the kind of place we were used to living.
Right.
And we were very unhappy in Boyle Heights. So eventually we moved from there. They all went to school. We went to school there. Like Shirley went to Roosevelt High.
Yeah.
And Norman went to Horace Mann Junior High. And I went to Sheridan Grammar School.
And Manual Arts.
And no, that's before we came to. That's in Boyle Heights, and that's very. Boyle Heights was the hub of the Jewish community. Now it's mostly Spanish people there, but at that time it was mostly everybody that I knew came from Boyle Heights. It was the Jewish area. And then we moved to West Adams, which is also more of a Jewishy. It was a Jewishy community. And then we moved to West Adams, and then we had an apartment, and we were much happier there. We just didn't like Boyle Heights. It was not the kind of life we were used to. And Shirley went to the school. She went to Polytechnic High School, because the shorthand that she was taking, they taught Pittman, and she learned Pittman, and that's what they had taught originally in the first school that she went to, and this is the only school that she could continue on with the same type of shorthand. So she went there. It wasn't in the area. She had to go far to go there. And I went to Manual Arts, and Norman went to Manual Arts. Beverly went to grammar school here. And we managed very well. I mean, we weren't rich, but we weren't poor, and we got along fine. Shirley was the eldest, and of course the responsibilities were more on Shirley's shoulders than it was on mine. But Shirley, we managed. She used to stop off on the way home from work, from school, and pick up. We kept kosher at that time because my mother kept kosher, so we thought this is the way supposed to be. But we got to a point where it was just impossible to keep. Nobody knew where the dishes. It was too hard for us. So we mixed it all up, and we didn't keep kosher anymore. But Shirley did the cooking, and I helped, and we kept house together. Shirley and I did most of it, and Beverly was the baby, and she ended up with, rather than one mother, she had two mothers and two fathers. And we did a lot of bossing around, but she was one of these good-natured little kids, and we did fine with her. We bossed her around good.
And Shirley graduated? Shirley graduated?
Shirley graduated high school.
And went into dental hygiene, didn't she?
Shirley graduated high school, and then she went to City College, and she studied dental assistant. Dental assistant. And Norman went to City College. And I, from high school, while I was in high school, I worked at the public library, the downtown public library. And at that time, when I graduated high school, the war had just started, and people were beginning to make more money. So I didn't want to go to college. I figured I could make as much money as Shirley, and I didn't have to go to college. So I got a civil service job, and I worked for the War Production Board for most of the war effort. And I did fine, because they paid well compared to some of the other jobs that you could get. But
talk about the fateful dance in the USO.
Oh, well, then we go into that. Shirley and my father was always afraid that something would go wrong he had three daughters, but two were older, and he was worried so much about it that when we dated, we double dated a lot, because he figured two would help each other. And we joined the USO, Shirley and I. And we went to, at the desert. Harry was stationed in the desert.
Indio.
Yeah,
the Air Force. I was in the Air Force at Indio, and they had the girls come in from
L.A.
to dances at the USO dances, and our station in Indio at the Indio Air Force Base. And Shirley and Estelle, one weekend, our fateful weekend, they came in, and I fell in love with this one right away.
This one.
Shirley danced with a few guys there, didn't make any connections. We connected. And
But Shirley, with Harry, I didn't know if he was Jewish or not. He didn't know if I was either. And it was Easter. So we came in on a Saturday.
It happened to be your birthday.
And it was on my birthday. And it was Easter time. And so I didn't know. So he wanted to know what we were doing tomorrow, which would be Sunday. And I knew a lot of them were going to church for Easter Sunday. And I said, well, I'm Jewish, so we don't celebrate Easter. He says, neither do I. and that's what we
connected. Shirley did not. The day after they went home, Shirley met Maury.
Yeah. So
actually, that was a funny weekend.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, she started to work she couldn't get a job at the time. Jobs are hard to get. She couldn't get a job in the dentist office, so she worked for the Water and Power. It just so happened your grandfather also had trouble getting a job as a teacher, although he had graduated college and he was a qualified teacher, but he couldn't get a job, so he worked for the Water and Power. And Shirley met Maury at the Water and Power that Monday.
After we met.
We met on Saturday.
So I knew Shirley one day before he met Shirley. That's funny. All on this weekend.
Yeah, that changed our whole life.
And they connected. That was their life.
That was, But see, Maury wasn't in the service. Harry was in the service, so he used to come in on weekends, and one time he came in with his buddies. Somebody loaned him one of his,
My first sergeant loaned us the car, well at a price. We paid for it. And I came home, anyway, we were up all night that night, and driving back to the base, I actually fell asleep at the wheel. I was up all night with Estelle. And luckily it only lasted a couple of seconds, and that woke me up, and I got back to the base okay. Anyway, then I kept up with Estelle, and Maury kept up with Shirley. Eventually they got married. How long? About a year later?
Yeah, about a year later, Shirley and Maury got married. And, you know, he was a school teacher, but he wasn't in the service. So they didn't take him because of his eyesight.
He had poor eyesight.
He had poor eyesight.
So
now I know where I get it.
Yeah.
He was exempt from
you didn't get
service.
it from us. I think you got it from Maury's side. Got other things from us, but that was not one of them.
Okay, and then they had Stephen and Bernie, and their legacy went on.
Well, we Shirley was a typical mother, and she was. Maury loved her blonde hair. She had very blonde hair, and Maury loved the blonde hair. And when we got married, we went back east. Harry's family lived back east. So we spent a couple of years back east, and the daughters, Sandy and Beth, were both born back east in New York. But one year we visited, and we always stayed with Shirley and Maury. That was where we stayed. And Shirley's hair was long, and I said to Shirley, you know, it's hard to keep your hair so long with young children and all that. So I talked her into having her hair cut. Well, if it wasn't for the fact that I was going home, Maury would have sent me home because he was very unhappy that I talked Shirley into having her hair cut.
How short?
You know, not real short.
Shoulder length.
Because that's how I remember her, as having hair shoulder length.
Yeah, well, it was that length, but she had long hair before, see. So Maury was very unhappy with me. He, you know, like mind your own business kind of. He didn't say it, but I'm sure he felt that. But Shirley and I were always, aside from being sisters, we were good friends. Because when we moved out here, we moved not far from them, you know, when they lived. And in fact, we had a funny experience. Our furniture hadn't come yet. So we needed someplace to sleep. We had the apartment, but we didn't have the furniture yet. So they had a rollaway bed in their house, and we took it and walked down. It had wheels, and we walked down the streets.
Walked about 5 blocks away from them
with the bed.
With the bed on wheels.
So
they furnished us with our bed in California.
Yeah. But we always worked close together. You know, we lived close until we moved to Westchester. She was not happy about our move there, but Harry worked at Hughes, and so it was more convenient to live closer than where we lived. We lived on Blackburn, not far from your grandmother's and grandfather's home.
They lived in that house their entire married life, didn't they?
Yeah, Bernie was born there. Stephen was born in the other house, and Bernie was born there. So they lived there a long time. And,
their whole lives.
Yeah, and we always kept very close, you know. And then, of course, Beverly met Al, and he was just a kid out of school, not much to say about him. And Shirley, my father, already died, and Shirley didn't not that she didn't like Al, but she didn't think he was a suitable husband for her sister. Because he was, you know, he had no career, no prospects. But little did we know how he turned out to be Zachy Farms.
Not to be the second largest chicken dealer in California.
Yeah. So, in fact, many years later, Al said, because he knew that Shirley didn't want him, and he said to Shirley, well, did I do so bad by your sister? Because Beverly, financially, she was the best of us all.
Mm-hmm.
But we all got along very well. Maury and Shirley and I and Bev and Al, we played mahjong together.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go to the beach, you know, the home that they have in the beach, that condo.
Yeah.
And the six of us used to stay there. And we played mahjong in the evening. And we happened to be a family that got along very well.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked out, you know, good. We didn't. Jerry and Norman were fine too, but we didn't see them that much.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry had her own family, and
Mm-hmm.
we just didn't mix that much with them. We saw them on occasions, but not. We're like Shirley and I and Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see, what else do you want to know about our life?
When I got home from the war, we got married in Shirley's living room.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Who performed the? So was it like a really tight?
Well,
Very
the
small,
rabbi.
small group.
Well, the rabbi that she had. She told me, we arranged for a rabbi too, and she said, don't look at him too closely, because he is cross-eyed, and you'll start to laugh. Well, in Shirley's living room in that other house before they moved to where you're living, there was a big mirror over the fireplace.
Oh, no.
And I'm looking at the mirror, and I'm seeing this rabbi with the cross eyes, and I was so afraid that I would start giggling, because, you know, she had warned me that this would happen, because she noticed it when she got married. So, but see, as you see, your grandmother and I, and Harry and Maury were really close together.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you want to know about us?
Maury died about 10 years before.
Yeah, well, when we were back east, I used to send things to the boys, Bernie and Stephen, and I learned to knit.
Mm-hmm.
So I still do, and I've always given the kids different knitting stuff. So I made sleeveless red sweaters, and the boys, your father and Bernie, loved them. Mm-hmm. So they wore that red sweater until it fell apart.
And you made me a sweater.
I made Harry a sweater, and Harry said it was too warm. So I gave it to Maury.
Mm-hmm.
And Maury loved it because he liked being warm.
Mm-hmm.
And he, in the summertime, he would wear it. And Shirley would say, it's too hot, you don't need to wear a sweater. So in order to keep peace in his house, he wore it under his shirt. And he would show me, so see, it's there, it's
very
warm.
heavy woolen sweater.
Yeah.
He loved it.
Yeah.
I guess
he loved that sweater.
I guess he had the low blood flow that I have. I'm always cold, so I can usually wear sweatshirts
Yeah, he was
during the
cold
summer.
a lot, so he liked to keep warm, and Shirley, I guess, didn't, and so she didn't want him to wear a sweater on a hot day, but he wanted to wear a sweater. But what else can we say about our life?
Hold on just